Life stories.
The line we never crossed. Part 1. Right person, wrong time. The bookstore in the rain. In 2025, I can tell you exactly when my life split into two versions. The version where I kept walking, and the version where I didn't. It happened 20 years ago, in a used bookstore that smelled like dust, paper, and old coffee. The kind of place that never looks clean, but always feels honest. I was 20 years old then. I didn't know what my future would be. But I knew what I wanted it to be. I wanted a life made of words, books, essays, stories, anything that meant something. That was the day I met Hannah Reed. She was 19. There was rain on her jacket, a camera bag on her shoulder, and something in her eyes that told me she had already survived something she shouldn't have had to. I didn't know her story. I only knew the feeling. That sudden, dangerous sense of recognition. Like the world had been quietly waiting for someone to arrive. It was late spring, but the weather didn't care. The sky was gray, and the rain fell in thin, stubborn lines. I had a paper bag in my hand. 2 second-hand novels I couldn't afford but bought anyway. I was halfway down the sidewalk when I heard something crash behind me. A disposable coffee cup rolled across the pavement, spilling brown foam into a puddle. A girl crouched down, reaching for it like she could undo the moment if she tried hard enough. I saw her hands first. Paint-stained fingernails. A thin silver ring on her right index finger. Then her face. She pushed wet hair behind her ear and looked annoyed, not at the coffee, not at the rain, but at the universe itself. I stepped closer. Not because I was brave. Because my body moved before my mind could stop it. I asked if she was okay. When she looked up at me, the air between us changed. The whole street felt quieter, as if the rain had lowered its voice. She blinked once, then smiled. Not a polite smile, a real one. She said she was fine. Just tragic. I asked if it was a coffee tragedy. She said it was the worst kind. She had waited 20 minutes for it. I laughed, surprised by the sound of it. I offered to buy her another. She tilted her head, studying me like kindness might be a trick. She said she didn't take pity coffee. I told her it wasn't pity. It was compensation for the universe being rude. That made her smile wider. She agreed, but only if she could take my picture. I froze. She tapped her camera bag and said she was doing a project. Strangers in Weather. She said I had a bookstore in the rain face. I looked at my paper bag, my worn sneakers, then back at her. I asked if that was an insult. She said it was an observation, and an accurate one. I should have laughed and walked away. Instead, I agreed, as long as she didn't make me look tragic. She raised an eyebrow and said she made no promises. We went back into the bookstore together. Warmth wrapped around us like a secret. The place was narrow, with crooked shelves and handwritten signs. Poetry, if you dared. Mystery, don't read at night. Philosophy, good luck. Hannah moved slowly, like she respected the space. Her fingers hovered over book spines, not grabbing, almost listening. She asked if I came there often. I told her too often. I pretended to browse and always bought something. She called it an addiction. I asked about her camera. She said she came there when she needed to remember something. I asked what. She hesitated just for a moment, and then asked me to pick a book instead. The first one I loved. I told her that was impossible. She said it wasn't. It was revealing. I chose a battered paperback I had read twice and underlined like I was trying to carve my name into it. She looked at it and said quietly that it made sense. I didn't like how easily she said that. She picked a thin photography book. Black and white. Faces. Streets. Shadows. I guessed it was Strangers in Weather. She smiled and said exactly. One photo stopped my breathing. A man standing alone under an umbrella, half his face in darkness. I said it was beautiful. She corrected me. She said it was lonely. And suddenly, I understood something I didn't yet have words for. She had learned loneliness early. And she carried it not to hide it, but to frame it. We ended up at the counter without realizing we were done browsing. The cashier looked at us like she had seen this before. Two young people standing too close, pretending not to notice. Hannah reached for her wallet. I stopped her. She said I was stubborn. I told her she was too. Outside, the rain still hadn't stopped. It felt like the world was giving us an excuse to stay. She stepped under the awning and pulled out her camera. She told me to look at her. I asked why. She said she wanted to capture the moment before I overthought it. I didn't smile politely. I didn't pose. I just looked at her, like I was trying to memorize her face in case I never saw it again. The shutter clicked. She looked at the screen, and something shifted in her expression. I asked what it was. She said nothing. I told her it wasn't nothing. She hesitated, then said something that stayed with me for years. She said I looked like someone who leaves. I told her that wasn't true. She said she didn't mean I wanted to. She meant I would. I should have asked what she meant. I should have asked everything. Instead, I asked her name. She said Hannah. I repeated it. She asked mine. I told her. Caleb Morrison. She said my name like she was placing a bookmark. We stood there under the awning, rain dripping steadily in front of us. Moving meant ending the moment. And we both felt it was the beginning of something. She said she was supposed to meet her roommate, but she had time. My heart leapt. She pointed to the small cafe next door and suggested hot chocolate instead of coffee. She couldn't risk another tragedy. I agreed. We started walking, and the rain followed us like a promise. That was the first night. Not the last, but the first. I didn't know the reason we would have to say goodbye. I didn't know how unfair it would be. But I knew one thing. I wanted more time, and for a while, we got it. The time we were given. We didn't call it dating at first. We just kept finding reasons to be in the same places. Coffee turned into hot chocolate. Hot chocolate turned into late walks. Late walks turned into hours that disappeared without asking permission. I learned the sound of Hannah's laugh before I learned the details of her life. It wasn't loud. It wasn't careful either. It came out when she forgot to protect herself. We met wherever the city allowed us to linger. cafes that didn't rush you out, public benches that faced nothing in particular. The bookstore, always the bookstore. Time moved differently when she was there. Not faster. Quieter. We talked about small things first. Music we pretended not to care about. Classes we half loved. People we were already outgrowing. She was studying photography, but she never said it like a plan. It sounded more like a confession. I told her I wanted to work with books. She didn't ask how practical that was. She asked what kind of stories I believed in. That question stayed with me longer than it should have. We didn't touch much at first. Not because we didn't want to. Because neither of us wanted to be the one who broke the moment. When it finally happened, it was accidental. My hand brushing hers as we reached for the same book. The pause that followed. The quiet decision not to pull away. She looked at me like she was surprised by her own courage. I felt something settle into place. We learned each other slowly. Not the dramatic parts. The ordinary ones. She drank her hot chocolate too fast and burned her tongue every time. I folded pages instead of using bookmarks. She hated that and never stopped me. Sometimes she took pictures of me when I wasn't looking. Reading, walking, standing still. I asked her why. She said she liked the moments people didn't prepare for. Once, I asked what she was trying to remember. She didn't answer right away. Then she said some moments disappear if you don't prove they happened. I didn't ask what she was afraid of losing. I didn't ask what she had already lost. I was 20. I thought time was generous. There were days when we talked about the future without meaning to. Not plans. Just shapes. She said she wanted to travel. I said I wanted to stay somewhere long enough to understand it. She smiled at that, not sadly, thoughtfully. I told myself that differences were interesting, that they made things richer. I didn't yet understand that they also made things fragile. The first crack appeared quietly. She started checking her phone more often. Not hiding it, just waiting. I told myself it meant nothing. Then she canceled one afternoon we had planned. Then another. She apologized more than she explained. I told her it was fine. Because at 20, you think patience is the same as understanding. One night, she showed up at the bookstore later than usual. Her camera bag was heavier. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. We sat on the floor between the shelves like we always did. I asked her if she was okay. She said yes too quickly. I told her she didn't sound okay. She looked at the books instead of at me. Then she said her mother had been sick for a while. She said it like it was old news. It wasn't. She said the doctors didn't know how long it would last. She said she might have to go home for a bit. Home wasn't nearby. Home was several states away. I said that was tough. I said it like a sentence, not a feeling. She nodded, like she was grateful I hadn't made it heavier. I didn't ask what a bit meant. I didn't ask when she would leave. I didn't want to put a shape to something that still felt avoidable. For a while, nothing changed. We still met, still laughed, still pretended the ground wasn't shifting. But something had entered the space between us. Not distance, time. The kind that counts down. The night before she left, we didn't do anything special. No grand goodbye. No dramatic promises. We walked. We talked. We avoided the future with impressive skill. At the edge of her street, she stopped. She looked at me like she was trying to memorize my face. I recognized the look. It was the same one I'd worn under the awning. She said she didn't know how long she'd be gone. I told her that was okay. She said she didn't know what things would look like when she came back. I told her we'd figure it out. The words sounded solid. They weren't. She leaned forward and kissed me. Not urgently. Carefully. Like she was trying not to break something fragile. When she pulled away, she rested her forehead against mine. She said she was sorry. I told her she didn't have to be. That was the moment we both understood something without saying it. This wasn't ending because we wanted it to. It was ending because something else needed her more. She left 2 days later. I watched her walk away without running after her. I told myself that was maturity. It wasn't. It was fear dressed up as respect. At 20, I believed that if something was meant to come back, it would. I believed that love was patient by default. I didn't yet understand that some things don't return unchanged. They return as memories, or lessons, or regrets, or they don't return at all. The distance that had a signal. For a while after Hannah left, we talked. Not dramatically, not constantly, but enough to believe we were still something. At first, it felt almost normal. She called from her childhood bedroom, her voice softer there. I answered from my apartment, pacing between the desk and the window. We talked about her mother's treatments. About my classes. About the bookstore, which she said she missed more than she expected. Sometimes we laughed. Sometimes we didn't. There were long pauses where neither of us knew what to add. Not because we had nothing to say, but because everything important felt too heavy to place into words. Time zones weren't the problem. Schedules weren't either. It was the silence after the calls that started to change things. I would hang up and realize I hadn't helped. I hadn't made anything better. I had only reminded her of a life she wasn't currently allowed to have. She never said that. She didn't have to. As weeks turned into months, the calls became shorter. Then less frequent. She started saying she was tired more often. I started saying that's okay too quickly. Sometimes I typed messages and erased them. Sometimes she didn't respond until the next day. Not because she didn't care. Because caring was exhausting. Once, I asked her if she knew when she might come back. She didn't answer right away. Then she said she didn't want me waiting. She said it gently. Like advice. Like protection. I told her I wasn't waiting. That was a lie we both accepted. The last call happened on a Tuesday night. I remember because nothing about it felt important at the time. She sounded calm. Too calm. She asked about my day. I asked about hers. We stayed on the surface, circling around everything we were avoiding. At some point, she said she should let me go study. I said I was glad she called. She paused. Then she said something I didn't understand until years later. She said she didn't want to be the reason my life stayed small. I told her she wasn't. I told her she never could be. That was when she went quiet. Not disconnected, just silent. When she spoke again, her voice was steady. She said she thought it might be better if we didn't talk for a while. She said it wasn't goodbye, just space. I said I understood. I didn't. We didn't fight. We didn't cry. We ended the call politely. That was the cruelest part. Days passed, then weeks. I waited for her name to light up my phone. It didn't. I told myself I was respecting her wishes. I told myself I was being mature. I wasn't. I was afraid that if I called, she would sound further away than before. 5 years later, I saw her name printed on a program. A small literary event at a community center. Local writers. Folding chairs. A microphone that screeched when no one touched it. I was there because I had helped edit a short essay collection. My name was printed in small letters near the back. I wasn't looking for her. That's what made it worse. I noticed the camera first. Not the bag this time. The way it hung from someone's shoulder like it belonged there. Then I noticed the way she stood, slightly apart from the crowd, watching instead of participating. I knew before I let myself know. She was older, not dramatically, just enough. Her hair was shorter, her face more certain, her eyes were the same. She saw me at the same moment. There was no rush toward each other. No sudden smile. Just a pause. I walked over and said her name. She said mine back, slower, like she was checking if it still fit. We talked about safe things. Work, cities, time. She said her mother was better now. I said I was glad. There were questions between us, heavy and familiar. Why didn't you call? Why didn't I? Why did we stop when we didn't have to? None of them crossed our lips. After the event, we stepped outside together. The air was cool. She asked if I wanted to get a drink. I said yes. We sat across from each other, careful. She said I seemed steadier. I told her she seemed braver. She smiled, unsure. At the corner, we stopped. The moment waited. She said she had missed me. I said I had missed her too. Then she told me she was seeing someone. I understood immediately. This wasn't bad timing. This was the cost of choosing silence. I watched her walk away again. This time, I didn't tell myself we would find our way back. I knew better. We had already chosen distance once. And distance, when given enough time, learns how to stay. The line we didn't cross. The next time I saw Hannah, it felt different before I understood why. It wasn't accidental this time. There was no surprise involved. She reached out first. An email. Short. Careful. She said she would be in the city for a photography exhibit. She said she thought of me when she realized it was the same weekend as a small book fair nearby. She asked if I wanted to meet. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. I told myself this was normal. Two people who had once known each other, catching up. That was another lie we both accepted. We met at the exhibit. Her photographs lined the walls. Black and white, like before. Strangers. Weather. Stillness. I watched people move slowly from frame to frame, pretending not to feel seen. Hannah stood near the back, answering questions politely. She looked comfortable there, like she belonged to herself. When she saw me, she smiled without hesitation. She hugged me, longer than necessary, not long enough to be honest. She asked how I'd been. I asked the same. We walked through the exhibit together. She told me the story behind one photograph. A woman waiting at a bus stop after missing the last one. She waited anyway, Hannah said. As if waiting was the point. I didn't ask why she'd taken that picture. Afterward, we walked outside. The city felt louder than it used to. Or maybe I was just paying attention. We found a place to eat. Sat across from each other again. She told me she was engaged. She didn't say it like news. She said it like a fact she'd already lived with. I nodded. I congratulated her. She watched my face carefully, like she was checking for damage. I smiled. That was the moment I understood how much practice I'd had at not saying what mattered. We talked about her fiancé. About my work. Everything we said made sense. None of it felt true. At some point, she said she was happy. I believed her. That didn't make it easier. When we left the restaurant, it was dark. We stood on the sidewalk, neither of us ready to end the night. She said she should go. I said I understood. She hesitated. Then she said there was something she needed to say before she couldn't anymore. My heart didn't race. It slowed. She said she had almost not written to me. She said it felt dangerous to reopen things. She said she kept thinking about the version of us that never got a fair chance. I didn't interrupt. She said she wasn't asking for anything. She said she just needed me to know that what we had mattered. That it still did. I felt the words press against something I'd kept closed for years. I told her I knew. I told her I had never stopped knowing. She stepped closer. Not into me. Just closer. The space between us tightened. She looked at me the way she had under the awning years ago. Like she was memorizing me. She said that if things were different, she thought we might have been very good together. I agreed. That was the truth. And also the problem. I could have said more. I could have told her that I still carried her with me. That no one else had ever quite erased the shape she left behind. I could have asked her not to marry him. I didn't, because she had chosen a life. And I respected it, because I knew what it cost her to stand there and say what she was saying. Because crossing that line would have made everything smaller, not bigger. She reached out and touched my arm. Just once. A grounding touch. A farewell disguised as connection. She said she was glad I was doing well. I told her I was glad she was happy. We stood there for a few seconds longer. Then she turned and walked away. I didn't follow. That night, I went home and sat in the dark. I didn't feel cheated. I felt clear. Love doesn't always ask to be chosen. Sometimes it asks to be honored. And that night, we honored it by letting it remain unfinished. This time, it was me. Life didn't wait for clarity. After Hannah's exhibition, things began to move for me in ways they hadn't before. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but steadily. I found work that lasted longer than a few months. I moved into a place that felt like it belonged to an adult. I stopped explaining my choices to people who didn't need to understand them. I told myself this was growth. And it was. It was also distance. Laura entered my life without announcing herself. A colleague's friend. A shared table at a crowded dinner. A conversation that didn't ask much from me. She listened well. She laughed easily. She liked plans. With Laura, nothing felt suspended. There were calendars, decisions, weekends that arrived with purpose. I liked how calm it was. I liked how nothing felt at risk. When she asked what I wanted, I could answer. When she asked where I was going, I could point. That felt like love, or close enough. Hannah and I didn't speak for a long time. Then, one afternoon, I saw her name on my phone again. It was unexpected, not unwelcome. She said she was in the city for a few days. Work-related. She asked if I wanted to get coffee. I said yes before I checked my schedule. We met near the bookstore. Not inside. Across the street, like a compromise. She looked tired. Not unhappy. Just worn at the edges. We talked about small things. Her work. My job. She mentioned her marriage without ceremony. I mentioned my relationship without detail. We were careful. At some point, she asked if I was happy. I said I thought I was. That was true. She nodded, like she believed me. She said she was glad. The words landed softly. There was a moment when neither of us spoke. The street noise filled the gap. She looked at the bookstore window. She said she sometimes walked past places we used to go. Not to linger. Just to remind herself that she had been there. I understood that. She said she didn't want to disrupt my life. I told her she wasn't. We both knew what that meant. She stood to leave first. She said it was good to see me. I said the same. She hesitated, then smiled. She said she hoped I got everything I wanted. I watched her walk away. This time, something felt different. It wasn't loss. It was timing. For the first time, I realized the distance between us wasn't created by circumstances. It was created by me. I had chosen stability. I had chosen clarity. I had chosen a life that moved forward. And Hannah, for once, was the one standing still. That night, Laura asked me how my day had been. I told her I'd run into someone I used to know. She asked if it mattered. I thought about it. Then I said it didn't. That answer surprised me. It wasn't a lie. It was a decision. I went to bed believing that chapter was finally closed. I didn't know yet that timing has a way of circling back. Not to punish you, just to check if you're paying attention. The airport, where we stood still. I wasn't supposed to be at the airport that morning. My flight had been rescheduled. A minor delay. The kind you accept without complaint. I arrived early anyway. Habit, more than intention. The terminal was already busy. Rolling suitcases. Voices overlapping. People arriving and leaving with equal urgency. I found a seat near the window and checked my phone. Nothing I needed to answer. That was when I saw her. At first, I didn't trust it. Airports do that to you. They blur memory and possibility. But then she turned slightly, and there was no doubt. Hannah stood a few rows away, holding a boarding pass and a passport. Her hair was longer again. She wore a coat I hadn't seen before. She looked composed, not hurried, not lost, just present. For a moment, I considered staying where I was. I told myself this wasn't a sign. That chance encounters didn't mean anything. I had said that before. I stood up. She noticed me at the same time. The recognition crossed her face slowly, like a sunrise you don't expect. She smiled. I walked toward her. We didn't hug. We didn't rush. We just stood there, a few feet apart, letting the noise move around us. She asked where I was headed. I told her. I asked where she was going. She said she was flying home. Just for a few days. She said it like it was casual. It wasn't. We found seats near each other. People passed. Announcements echoed overhead. Time pressed in from all sides. She asked if I was still with Laura. I said yes. She nodded. I asked about her. She said she was married. She didn't add anything else. The words settled between us. Neither of us tried to soften them. After a while, she said something that surprised me. She said she was glad we hadn't ruined things. I asked what she meant. She said it would have been easy to cross lines. To say too much. To ask for what we couldn't give. She said she was glad we had been careful. I understood what she was really saying. She was thanking me. And apologizing at the same time. I told her I was glad too. That was another truth that hurt. We sat in silence for a while. Not an empty silence. A full one. She told me she sometimes wondered if love was supposed to feel quieter as you got older. I said maybe it was supposed to feel clearer. She smiled at that. Then she said something that shifted everything. She said she didn't think she would have survived those years if she had stayed in touch. She said hearing my voice had made it harder to focus on what she needed to do. She said distance hadn't been cruelty. It had been survival. I felt something in my chest loosen. Not relief. Understanding. She looked at me carefully, like she wanted to make sure I heard her. She said she had never stopped caring. She just couldn't afford to live in the space between what was and what could have been. I told her I understood. I didn't say I wished things were different. That would have been selfish. The boarding announcement came sooner than I expected. Her flight. She stood up. So did I. We walked together until the line split. She stopped. I stopped. For a moment, it felt like the first night again. The pause before movement. She looked at me and said my name. I said hers. She said she hoped I was happy. I said I was trying to be. She smiled, like that was enough. Then she said goodbye. Not dramatically. Not with regret. Just honestly. I watched her walk away. I didn't follow. I didn't call out. I stayed where I was. That was when I realized something I hadn't allowed myself to before. This wasn't unfinished. This was complete. Painful. Clear. Honest. Some loves don't end with closure. They end with understanding. And that morning, standing in an airport full of people going everywhere, we finally understood each other completely. This story continues in part 2.
Thank you for spending your time with this story. If this story stayed with you, please like the video and subscribe for more narrated life stories.